nice just to have another body.
Okay.
But your dog is visiting.
I'd like to call the June 18th Sumner City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Pam Osborne.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious God, for this community I give you thanks. For the leadership of this community I ask for your guidance and your wisdom, and continue to help us create the best place for our children to grow and the best place for our elders to live out their wonderful last years. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Pam. Before we get to the presentation by Chief Backer, Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Potato.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Hayden.
Here.
Hochstetter.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Good, all present. With that, Chief Backer, presentation East Pierce Fire and Rescue. You're up, sir.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to come tonight and provide an update on the fire department and our different projects that we have going on. I know it's been a while since I've seen you, but I'm also sworn to do this as fast and eloquently as possible. So I can do fast. I don't know about the eloquent part.
Wasn't going to say anything, sir.
I know I'm starting out kind of behind the curve a little bit. I've been here 3 years now at East Pierce. Just a couple days ago was my third anniversary. When I arrived, some of the issues that I discovered and identified were that our response units were understaffed, particularly our fire engines and ladder truck. We have old facilities that were designed for volunteer use, most of them. Fortunately, the one here in town is in pretty good shape and was designed for 24-hour staffing. Our emergency vehicles are aging, and of course, as everyone's probably aware, we have a rapidly increasing call volume. In fact, since 2012, our call volume has increased 83%, from a little over 6,000 to last year a little over 11,000 calls. We've handled that without any increase in resources, and in fact, we actually did that with a decrease because our minimum staffing levels decreased during the recession, which is what caused the issue with our understaffed fire engines and ladder truck. Our call volume is still, for the most part, 74% last year were EMS or medical related calls. Only 3% of our call volume is fire response, but that, when we have a fire, takes more resources and a lot more time to deal with than your typical emergency medical call. Sumner here, the station here in town, accounts for 24% of our overall call volume, so our first due, so you have a busy city. Number of incidents in 2017 were 2,603 here in Sumner. So far this year, to date, we're actually 3.4% lower this year in Sumner than we were at the same time at the end of May, which is really, it's only 36 calls difference with that size. However, district-wide, while we started out this year, essentially, I believe 5% below last year, by the end of February, we've caught up, and by the end of May, we're actually a little over 1% ahead of last year. So our calls are picking up again for the year. Our major projects that we have in process right now is a staffing increase, and I'll address that a little bit more on the next slide. We have filled our vacant assistant chief fire marshal position, which actually had been vacant for many years. So we've got a little more help in our fire prevention division. Still trying to look at future budgets and where I can add another 1 or 2 deputy fire marshals so that we can begin annual inspections in our business community again, because we're not doing that. We haven't done it for some time, and that's something that when the rating bureau comes back will likely cause some issues potentially with our insurance ratings. Capital planning, we are currently in the process of updating our capital facilities plan. We've had a consultant on board since the first of the year working on that. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a slide or two as well. We've added a mechanic in an effort to reduce our workload that we contract out to a contract shop. We're hoping that that will decrease our downtime of our units and also give us a higher quality of repair rate and having rigs come back, and one, having everything done that we submitted as needing repair, and then two, having an actual mechanic pick something up from a contract shop as opposed to sending a firefighter who, you know, may not recognize that if something was broken, even though it's on the list, and he looks at it, I don't know if that's fixed or if it's broken, you know, whereas the mechanic will. A brand new program that we started that you see several departments beginning, mostly in King County area right now, but we've added a community paramedic. This person is one of our firefighter medics. We pulled them off the line, and they are now working days. Their primary functionality will be to work with people who access 911 on a frequent basis. Work with them, get them in contact and signed up with the proper social services networks, so those folks can get taken care of and hopefully reduce their dependence on 911, thereby slowing down our growth curve. That person will also be tasked as a liaison to work with our senior housing facilities, and be it group family homes and the larger facilities, so that when we start seeing a spike in call volume to those areas, that you know, this person will contact them and see what's going on. You know, because quite often it's more an issue of them, that facility being understaffed and not being able to help Mrs. Smith off the floor, so they call us, where they really should have staff on location to deal with many of those calls. So that person will be working with them as well. And again, when I arrived, I was shocked to see how many miles we put on EMS units. And we actually have, because of that, we actually have a fairly short lifespan. We have to replace those vehicles almost on a 5-year basis, because once emergency vehicles start getting 150,000, 170,000 miles on them, life is getting rough, and the last thing we need is that thing breaking down on the way to the hospital, you know, with a patient in the back of it. So as I said, staffing was a huge thing that I identified when I arrived in 2015. Each of our paramedic units, all 4 of them, and then each of our suppression units, each unit only had 2 people assigned to it. The problem is that in order, when you arrive at a fire scene, if there's somebody in the building that needs to be rescued, you have to have at least 3 people on scene to do that. So we're able to cheat the system a little bit if, we'll just use the units here in town. If at that time the engine, because the ladder was out of service because it only had 2 people on it, so it was a safety issue there. So if the medic unit and the engine were both available and they both arrived at a fire, you had 4 people and you could effect a rescue. But with that medic unit being assigned to EMS calls well over 20% of the time, the chances were good that the engine would arrive by itself, only have 2 people, and now they're waiting for another unit to show up from Bonnie Lake or from Edgewood before they could effect a rescue in order to comply with state laws. In fact, a little over a month ago, City of Washougal was fined by Labor and Industries for effecting a rescue with only 2 people at the fire scene. So in 2016, at the beginning of the year, we added a 3rd person to the station here in Sumner. So that brought the ladder truck back into service, and it has had 3 people on it since that day. We've hired people at the beginning of this year through a SAFER grant from FEMA, which is paying 75% of the cost for this year and next. And those people will be assigned to the Edgewood, the Bonnie Lake, and the Foothill stations at the beginning of next year once they're far enough along in their probationary status. So we will next year we'll increase our minimum staffing from 22 to 25, because now we'll have not only the ladder truck, but 3 of our fire engines with 3 people on them every day, all day, all year. We'll still have 2 engines left, and that's the Prairie Ridge and the Lake Taps engines to get to 3. And I'm hoping through budgetary growth with new construction And because the voters approved our levy lid lifts last year with up to a 6% maximum as opposed to the 1% limitations, that we'll be able to squeeze some more funds and correct those other 2 engines as well. But a note is that, looking at the growth, so the plan with the staffing is to fix what we have that's broken, get these units to proper staffing levels. Then we'll start trying to figure out how to address additional fire stations that we're going to have to put in service to deal with growth. One of those being a station in Tahali and probably one up in the Milton area as well. But quite honestly, the only way, it's going to take additional revenues to do that, because you're looking, depending on if you put 3 to 5 people per shift, 3 shifts at each station, you're looking at $2.5 to $3 million per station to make that work, and that's outside of our growth curve. And, so at that time, we may have to look at another levy lid lift in order to do that. Again, on our staffing levels, because this is for a department our size, to add 9 people in January, although we did lose one at the end of the academy due to an accident off shift, and then we were hiring 9 more in August, which was funded through the levy lid lifts that we did. For a department our size, bringing 18 people on in 1 year is huge. I mean, it's totally overwhelmed our training division. They're getting it done, but they can't work on a whole lot of other projects at the same time. So that's big. And then plus we've got to hire for attrition for the retirements as well. In fact, we will have, I think it's the 28th in the afternoon, we'll have a little thing here at the station in Sumner to recognize Captain Ron Anderson and firefighter paramedic Terry Flowers for both of them retiring. Some of you may know Ron, because I know he was part of the Sumner team when we merged departments. So again, we still have the 2 engines that we need to work on. We're hoping for regular revenue growth to fix that. And then on our capital facilities, we've been working on updating our plan. We've had a citizen advisory committee that we've been working with since January. These folks are 16 citizens from throughout our district, and if you remember, our district covers all the way from the west side of Milton all the way out to the edge of Buckley and down to the national park. So we had a pretty decent spread of folks in there. All of them were very, very supportive, and many of them, in construction industry in different areas. So they were able to give us some good advice, helped us kind of prioritize projects and try to select some cost values in there. I'm anticipating we're going to have some discussion at our board meeting tomorrow night, and I anticipate some final direction on whether or not we try to do a bond issue later this year. So that's where I leave it with stay tuned. We're also, besides looking at our capital facilities, we need to take a look at our emergency vehicles. Our ladder truck's 18 years old. So in a couple years, it takes longer than that to get one built and ordered. And so maximum lifespan of those for your insurance rating services is 15 years frontline, 20 years as a reserve. So we're in danger of exceeding that. Many of our frontline fire engines are nearing 10 years and have well over 100,000 miles on them. Because of the size of our district, we put a lot of miles on our rigs, and that wears them out, especially when you're driving hard most of the time. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or feedback on how eloquent I may have been. Or
Chief, thank you very much. You've been totally eloquent and actually a lot of information in a pretty short time, and I appreciate your effort in keeping it down to a certain manageable level.
The council's very busy.
Councilmember Botetto.
So with the hot weather that's coming, a concern I have is about the water safety. So are you, I know that you've done some training, or made aware, for kids at school, but is there any plan for this summer?
We haven't changed any plans on how we normally react to water safety issues. We will probably later this week start working on public messaging for fireworks, because that's really right now what's got me concerned is with this kind of weather drying things out, and next week fireworks go on sale. So that's a threat. We continually put put some things out on water safety. We work with Bonnie Lake PD and the Cascade Water Alliance on that, and everybody's kind of getting their own stuff out. We're continually selling life jackets at a discounted rate to folks in need. It's pretty amazing how many times during the week we'll hear, I'll hear over the overhead page for somebody to come fit some little ones in life jackets.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear, because hate to have anybody die.
Well, yeah, we don't want to see that either. And our rescue teams are out there training. They've been out there quite a bit the last few weeks. And,
Okay,
both
thank you.
on the lake, and most of the training has occurred on the lake. It's been difficult and even hazardous right now to do training on the river with the high water and the rapid flow of the river at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, clarifying questions, council? Okay. Hey, Chief, thank
All right.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, Michelle, could you please read the consent agenda?
Item number 1, approval of the regular council meeting minutes of June 4th, 2018 and June 11th, 2018 study session. Item 2, approval of the 2018 business claims in the amount of $2,555,583.40. Voucher numbers 100954 through 101080, 51718, 60118, and 60218. Item 3, resolution number 1495, Auburn Sumner Boundary Line Adjustment Resolution. Item 4, Summit Law Group Agreement.
Okay. Would any council member want to remove any item from the consent agenda? Okay. Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Hochstetter. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Peterson. Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. And it is approved unanimously. Now we come to the public hearing portion of the agenda. And we have public hearing on City Informational Signs Code Amendment. And I would ask Associate Planner Ann Siegenthaler to make a presentation prior to asking for public comment. Ann.
Evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor, Ann Siegenthaler, Associate Planner, Community Development. So tonight is the public hearing on city informational signs. That's a change to the sign code to expand allowances to city informational signs only. The code currently does allow city informational signs, but the council expressed a desire to expand those allowances in a couple ways. One, the proposal is to allow city informational signs that are taller than the current 6-foot height that is allowed. Are you hearing me all right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second provision would be to add an allowance for city informational signs to include an electronic reader board sign. And again, these changes would only apply to city informational signs and only on city properties. And I have nothing else to add, but I'm happy to answer questions.
I think what I'd like to do is go ahead and open the public hearing. And we do have a sign-in sheet with a number of people listed. So as I call your name, could you please come forward and address the council? And the first one is Sam Susnovich. Mr. Susnovich.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here on such a nice night. Appreciate it. If it's not rude, I'm going to say a few remarks, and then I'm going to sneak out of here. I'm going to surprise my wife and get home early. So, just for the record, I'm all for the sign code. It would be nice to see more information at City Hall. A sign. I think that a city this size, with as much as we have going on, the new town center plan that's coming online, I just think it would be nice to have more information out there that would be put out by the city. The high school has a sign. I think people, sometimes you drive through these towns and you see the city halls and they kind of get lost. Where is it? But I think that would be just a great way to be able to say, that's what cities, where the city hall is. There's information that's out there for people, and it'd be a great way to communicate, especially as the city gets larger. Thank you very much. Do you
Thank
want,
you,
for the
Sam.
record, where I live, or?
If you could, 812 Meeker, it says right here.
Oh, yep, that's it.
Is that correct?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sam. Okay, next we have Judy Kimball.
Hi, my name is Judy Kimball. I live here in Sumner. I'm a former member of the Arts Commission. I was the driving force behind the Writers event for about 6 years. And during that time, we had every available means to try to get the word out about the Writers event. It's still going. It's an annual event. It takes place this year, I think, in October. But we tried newspapers, we tried the, libraries, we did the senior center, we did the bookstores, every place we could think of. And there were still people who didn't get the word. I am so in favor of this reader board. I think this would be a great way to advertise this because we had people that would come to and say, well, you really need to advertise more. And we had tried every means we could think of. But I think the reader board would be a great idea. I'm totally in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we have Richard Kimball.
Well, I think the reader board is an excellent idea to get the information out there that a lot of people are new, fairly new, and they're really, some of them may not even get the bulletin that you send out, which is really good to find out what's going on. I think that's really a very positive part of letting the community know. But no, I'm all for the reader board. I think it'll be a real asset. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anita Miller.
I am Anita Miller, and I'm at the food bank most of the time. So, and I just want to say that communication is our most difficult thing in our town. Businesses, whatever we happen to be into, we're all struggling with that. And I'm sure it's not just Sumner, but we do have a real communication problem, getting the word out. We just had, for an example, CenturyLink just does a money match with us once a year. And we send out things, we talk it, but we have a board out in front, which you've probably all seen, telling you what we need and what's going on within our system as much as we can. And we've had trees, our own, that have grown up and should be trimmed. And I had 4 people from our town walk in and say, hey, I was trying to read your reader board and I can't read it. So just so you know, it is something that a lot of our town people are looking at as they go by, and I think it would help all of us, businesses, City Hall, and us too, whatever you're doing. It's amazing how many we can put out. We need mac and cheese, and we get 500 people, I swear, walking in. But it's a lot of mac and cheese that'll come in, and it's just the reader board that did it, just so you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. And Marcia Vandenberg.
Hello, I'm here, I'm on the Sumner Arts Commission, and our concern is always trying to let people know what's going on in the city, whether it's, we do, the concerts in the park and the movies, and like the others have said, we do a lot of things to get the word out, but I think the best place would be if they drive down the street and see what's going on in our city. I mean, whether it's a council meeting or whether it's a city event. So absolutely, I'd love to see the reader board. I think it would be beneficial to Sumner. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That's all who signed up, but that doesn't mean that there's other people that may not want to comment. So if there are, you could please come forward and state your name, address, and address the council. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michael Hochstetter. set up straight. My name is Michael Hockstar. I live 914 Mead Avenue in Sumner here. First, I want to say thank you. I've got to see from the back side here how much work you guys do. I've watched my mom serve on the council, so I know how much all of you work. And Mayor Bill Pugh, believe me, you guys do a lot for little reward, so thank you for your service. Some of you know I serve on the Sumner Arts Commission, as you've heard from some of these other people here. I've just started, and I truly appreciate the opportunity. But I don't come to speak on behalf of the Arts Commission. I come to speak on behalf of someone who lives downtown and also works downtown. And I appreciate everything that everyone has had to share today, and the idea of the sign, because improving communication is huge. And the city has done a wonderful job with that, on social media. And with all due respect, I guess I'm coming from a different demographic as far as the feedback you're hearing tonight. And with that, I've been able to stay plugged in with the city with the job that's being done on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I've heard a lot of stuff in favor of the sign, and I hear that they're in favor of improving the communication. 100% agree, and 100% I see where a sign would be beneficial, but I don't hear anybody talking about the nature of this sign, what kind of sign it is. People are saying reader board, but from what I understand, it's going to be a screen. It's going to be a screen that flashes different things that I don't know how late it's going to be on, that I know has been proposed for other places in town that have, and it has been, we've collectively said no to it. So I'm concerned about the precedent that we'd be setting if we approved something to only be allowed at City Hall in our downtown. The precedent is my real concern. And I guess my question would be, one, the nature of the sign, because just like my fellow community members have shared, I'm fully in favor of improving communication and putting a sign. But is an LED sign of that nature, that is electronic, that is a TV screen, does that fit our town? And is that a fair thing to put in as we look to set a precedent as the city continues to grow and other people are going to want to put in the same type of sign? And then my other question would be is, I guess, how do we, with integrity and fairness, uphold putting a sign like this but not allowing anybody else to do it? So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Anybody else? Yeah, please.
I'm David Menschke. I live at 901 Sumner Avenue. And if an electronic reader board gets put out here, I won't even have to come here anymore. I can just look out my kitchen window. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's not a casino. That's the new reader board sign. And eventually, someday, maybe I'll be in one of these this corner unit that hopefully will be put up here someday. I know the 2 living room windows will be on the corner right up here and here, and they'll have a spectacular view of this flashing LED sign. And so hopefully the marketing will not show it during the daytime, and I'll be down there or something. But okay, no.
Thank you, David. Okay, anybody else that would care to testify on this? Okay, then I would declare the public hearing over. Thank you very much. With that, let's move on to regular business. And we have under unfinished business, Agenda Bill 18-120, ordinance number 2647, wall sign code amendment. Could I get a motion and a second to consider this item?
I'll make that motion.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Hayden
And I'll second it.
and seconded by Councilmember Hochstetter to consider the wall sign code amendment. And with that, Ann, could you come forward and address the council, please? Thank you.
Ooh, that's tall. Ann Siegenthaler, Associate Planner, Community Development. So tonight we're asking the council to adopt sign code changes related to wall signs. And again, this is just related to wall signs, not window signs or any of the other sign code sections that we'll be discussing at future dates. There are 2 main sections that we're, 2 main changes that we're proposing. The first is to make the formula for calculating sign size consistent across all zones. Currently, in some zones it's 5%, in other zones it's 10%.
and we're proposing to change that to make that 5% consistent across all commercial zones, so it's the same for all businesses. The second main change we're proposing is to place a maximum size cap on signs. So even though the 5% formula calculation helps reduce the incidence or possibility of really large signs, as a building grows larger, the size of the sign can continue to grow larger with the possibility of having excessively sized wall signs. So we're proposing to place a maximum cap on signs to prevent those worst case scenarios of overly large signs. From staff's perspective, I would suggest that these code changes are the minimum necessary to prevent these worst case scenarios, while at the same time having a relatively minimal impact on our businesses and their ability to put up signs. We've looked at signs around the city. What we're proposing is consistent with the signs we see out there for most of our businesses. We have gone through the public hearing process. We've asked the community what they think about the proposed changes, and that included sending out mailings to over almost 300 businesses and sign code companies, and we have not heard any comments, let alone any negative comments or concerns about the 5% or about the maximum size cap. So given that, we think we'd like to have the council adopt the ordinance before you tonight, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time if you have them.
Okay. Questions the council has, Van? Okay, Councilmember Potato.
So it's, this would not have any effect on the murals that are on buildings? This
That's
wouldn't
correct.
cover it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Murals are treated as exempt graphics
Oh, okay.
if they include advertising for a particular product or particular company, and then we treat them as signs, or we treat a portion of it as a sign. But it would not affect the murals that we see. Yeah.
Okay, it's like looking at the one across the street here, so.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council members' questions? Okay. City Attorney, I believe since we had a public hearing on this, that we wouldn't allow for any public testimony at this point?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, seeing no more questions on behalf of the council, Michelle, could you please call the roll?
Reed,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes,
Peterson,
Yes.
Brown.
It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That leads us to the public comment portion of the agenda. And Michelle, could you please read the guidelines regarding public comment?
This time is reserved for you to address the mayor and council on matters of city business that are not on the agenda. It should be remembered that we are engaged in the public's business, and an appropriate level of decorum should be maintained at all times. Only one person may have the floor at a time. This is the time for the mayor and council to hear from citizens, and it is not the opportunity to engage council members or the mayor in debate. When recognized by the mayor, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer sounds, please conclude your comments and return to your seat. If you would like to ask a question, it is best to submit it in writing so that the mayor, council, or staff may have adequate time to research and provide a complete answer.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Nobody signed up in advance to address the council, but that doesn't mean that you can't address the council on any item that's not on the agenda. So if there's anybody out there that would like to address the council, please step up to the podium. And seeing none, we will close public comment. Go on to new business. There is no new business. So then we go on to reports by the city council. We'll start with Councilmember Potato.
so I just was glad to hear from Chief Backer that life vests are available at the fire stations, and just want everybody to be safe when they are like up at the lake or by any of the rivers, because it's getting hot, and I know it's tempting to go up there and just stay safe. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Council member. Go ahead, Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just loving this weather. Just a word of caution, please watch out for school children who are out of school this week or last week. A lot of them are on the streets on bicycles, and just be safe. Thank you.
Okay, well stated. Councilmember Brown?
I was just going to say what Mr. Stewart said, and that's the kids are out of school on Thursday. There'll be increased foot traffic. Please be careful.
Deputy Mayor?
So I attended the Eli Hill graduation ceremony the other night, and I tell you, I was so glad that I went. It was highly emotional. The kids were so happy. They graduated 40 kids out of Eli Hill. 32 were actually at the ceremony. They did their own entertainment. They got up there, they sang, they played guitar. It was awesome. They spotlighted every single graduate. Every single one they said nice things about, didn't say anything bad. So the kids were so happy, and it was really good. So I was really happy that I went. And it was a packed house. It was at Sumner Middle School. There was not a seat empty, and I don't think there was a dry eye in there. So it was really good.
And you may have mentioned this before, but Eli Hill also started an Interact program, is that correct?
Yes, they did. And Mr. Haynes has done a wonderful job at Eli Hill with the Interact Club, and they actually did the setup and the cleanup for the graduation. So that was awesome to see.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hochstetter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to tell everyone that the Rotary Club this last Tuesday honored Sumner Middle School students for service above self. And boy, was I ever impressed with the caliber of the young people that came in and accepted those awards. It's just nice to see that all our new citizens are learning about service, and they all seem to have a lot of compassion. So we can look forward to a bright future. Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson?
I'll tag right on to that. I was able to attend a meeting at the Sumner Library last week with, it's put on with the library, and then community members and the youth from the high school actually are the table hosts that host the conversation. So it's always nice to see them engaging with adults, teaching us things. The topic this week was All Lives Matter, and it was to spur a conversation about All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, and hear what everybody thought about it. So it was a really dynamic, respectful, great conversation, and I really appreciate that that happened. The final talk in that series is July 26th at 6:30, and it is a culmination. So it's to talk about how the series went and what you would like for next time. So if any of you can come, that would be great. And then lastly, tomorrow is Juneteenth Day, which it celebrates June 19th, 1865, which was the announcement of the abolition of slavery in the United States. So it's also referred to as Freedom Day or America's Second Independence Day. So it's a day to celebrate everything that we've achieved and a reminder of how much farther we have to go. So please keep that in mind tomorrow.
Good, thank you. Councilmember Reed?
Thank you. I had two notable events just this weekend. I had a wonderful Father's Day, and very proud to attend the Sumner High School graduation on Friday to see our son Parker graduate, and very happy. It was a great ceremony, a great event.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, Mr. Galley.
Sure, just wanted to announce in just a little over 2 weeks, Music Off Main begins with, I wrote it down here, the Air National Guard Band of the West. So.
Okay, good. I attended something I had never attended before, and it's called this AUSA, and I didn't know what the heck AUSA was until I went along with Carmen and Lana, and we went down, and it's the Association of the U.S. Army. and it's the local chapter. And basically, it is civilians and retired Army, individuals that support the troops, both when they're deployed in the area and also when they, leave the service. And I tell you, listening, we had a 4-star general, and that gave the presentation out of Alexandria, Virginia, and you quickly understood why this person was a 4-star general. Very eloquent, very complete in terms of how he described what they do and what the needs are. It made me proud, to be there. And we are, Sumner is a participant in that we have our connector program. And I'll probably screw this up again, Carmen, here, but we support the soldiers and families of the 13th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion. Is that correct? Wow. Okay. And if you recall, in the Daffodil Parade, they were the unit that was in the parade. Anyway, it was a great event. This last June 14th is both the Army's birthday and it's Flag Day. So around Flag Day, we replace flags at all the city facilities. But if you replace your own flag and don't know how to dispose of it properly, bring it to the cemetery office. That's a one-stop shop out there. They do so many things that we're not aware of. That's one of them. They have a bin, they'll collect them and then have them disposed of respectfully and properly. And that bin was installed last year by a local Eagle Scout candidate. So anyway, that's it. Under comments, we do have an executive session. It'll be for the purpose of discussing the qualifications of an applicant for public employment pursuant to RCW 4230-110(4)(g) for a period not more than 10 minutes, and there will be action to follow. So with that, John, I take it we can go to
Yes, we can.
the room
Yes.
back there and use it for might be the first time for executive session.
I think so.
Yes. What, take this. Yeah, that.
I think you're playing from the front.
Okay, Michelle, we'll reconvene the meeting at whatever time it is, because I can't see either of the clocks, so thank you. 6:50. Okay, on the agenda, we have Agenda Bill 18-121, which is employment contract, and I'll call on City Administrator John Galley.
Okay. I'm here asking that the council confirm the mayor's appointment of Andrea Marquez as city attorney effective July 1st, 2018, and to approve the employment contract which you have been provided just under separate cover. Some background: Ms. Marquez was hired by the city in July of 2016 as assistant city attorney after approximately 4 years in private practice. She's a graduate of the University of Washington in political science and economics and the University of Oregon School of Law in 2012. She's a member in good standing with the Washington Bar Association. Andrea is also a graduate of Sumner High School, has close connections to the Sumner community. In joining the city in 2016, she brought extensive experience in civil litigation, land use and planning, and condemnation law. Since hiring, she has assumed responsibilities for criminal prosecution, spearheaded resolution of longstanding code enforcement issues, participated in land use matters, provide necessary updates to municipal code, and advise staff and council on numerous topics. Andrea's work has been exemplary and has exceeded expectation regardless of the assignment. The city attorney, per city code, is to be appointed by the mayor, subject to confirmation by majority of vote of the members of the city council and approval of the employment agreement. I'm recommending, as I said before, that she be appointed city attorney at step 3 of the 2018 compensation schedule with a 12-month probationary period beginning May 1st, 2018, when she was appointed interim city attorney. She represents our city's values, has an excellent working relationship with staff, and has full support of other directors. She's invested in the community and is committed to its long-term stability and success. I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you,
Questions?
Mr. Galley. So what we would need is a motion and second to allow the mayor to appoint Andrea Marquez.
And approval of
And
the
approval of the employment contract.
agreement, yes.
Okay, could I get a motion to that effect?
I move to do that.
Okay, it has been moved to do that by Councilmember Peterson.
I'll
Can I have
second
a
it.
second? And it's been seconded by Councilmember Stewart. Any comments or questions that the council has on this particular issue? It doesn't work, but go ahead, Councilmember Hochstetter.
Oh,
Oh, that one works, yeah.
okay. Trying to tell me my mic doesn't work.
No,
Oh, don't worry,
I
it
thought you
doesn't
were
work.
reaching for that
Okay.
darn button.
I just, very happy that Andrea Marquez was willing to take on this job, and I think we're very lucky to have her, so thank you.
Okay, any comments anybody has? Okay, I do believe that this is open for any public comment. So if there's anybody in the audience that wants to comment on this particular item, please step forward. Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Hayden? Well, yes.
Hochstetter?
Yes.
Stewart?
Absolutely, yes.
Patetta?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
It is unanimous. Thank you very much, City Council.
I don't hold it against myself.
Right.
It's hard for me, trust me.
Yeah, so thank you, Council, and thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. And on that happy note, this meeting is adjourned. Yes, sir.
Your wife will let you.